I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria!
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this time, it's a big film. It's a film that George and I have watched to death, both young and old. It's Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. George, are you looking forward to this one?
Very much so. And I realise it's a big one for a lot of people. So an initial disclaimer, we hope we do it justice for you.
We're probably not going to, and as you probably find with George and I, we could pick apart some films for a long time, discuss a lot, but when it comes to comedies, we normally are quite brief because otherwise we'd just be here to the end of time quoting our favourite lines, which is...
You may as well watch the film,
You'd get more enjoyment, certainly. Yeah. So, for everybody who's listened to the show, you know what to expect. For those of you who this is the first episode or you're not sure what the hell you're listening to, here's George with a quick disclaimer.
So we are Retro Ramble. Charlie and I are brothers. The point of this podcast is we look back at the films that we grew up with, the films we loved back then, and we check and see, do they still hold up? How these films were created, how they were, how they came together. But I think it's worth saying this is a light-hearted look at these films. So it's not an in-depth critical appraisal. This isn't that kind of podcast. So it's more like reacquainting ourselves with an old friend. There may be swearing, there'll definitely be bad impressions, and as we're going into detail on these films, there will be spoilers from the very off. But if you haven't seen Coming to America, what are you doing? Stop this podcast, go back and put it on. It's a great film.
And then come back and listen again. And just one final word on audio quality. We are still remote. We are still COVID protected. So, there will be lag. There will be audio issues, and we'll try and clean those up as best as we can.
I also have ice in my drink. I'm drinking a strong drink, and so there may be that lovely tinkle of ice cubes into a glass.
I think we should probably have some other disclaimers. So, if you are of the legal age and it is of a suitable hour, get your drink on.
But I think it's worth saying this is what should be scheduled as our Christmas episode. So there's
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas, everyone. So that's a different film, Charlie. But essentially this was due to be our Christmas episode, and it was also some canny scheduling on my behalf because I had originally read the sequel to Coming to America, Coming number 2 to America, was due to be released at this Christmas. But due to COVID, due to whatever reasons, the film schedules, everyone knows, all these films are moving, and Coming to America, though it has been made by Paramount, like the first, the sequel, it was going to Netflix, but I now believe it's going to Amazon, and it's going to be released in March.
It's a Prime original.
Yeah, it's a Prime original. So, and I had this thing in my head that Coming to America is a bit of a Christmas film because there's lots of snow, there's a drinks party, but well,
let's get on with the show.
Yeah.
Should we cut to the trailer?
Yeah, cut to the trailer. It's fine.
Okay, shut up. Yeah, okay. So here's the show. Enjoy.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, lived a handsome prince. He was attended by devoted servants.
Do you think perhaps just once I might use the bathroom by myself?
Most amusing, sir.
Wipers!
And engaged by royal decree.
Why? Why can't I find my own wife?
We've gone to a great deal of trouble to select for you a very fine wife.
I want a woman that's going to arouse my intellect as well as my loins.
Where will you find such a woman?
In America.
So he traveled across the sea to the land of opportunity, which is where the fairy tale ends and our story begins.
Behold, Simi, life real life, and seeing that we have been denied for far too long. We're in New York now. Let us dress as New Yorkers. I feel like a complete idiot.
Have either of you ever had any fast food work experience before?
Certainly not. This will be our first job in the United States. I am Akeem.
Nice to meet you, Akeem.
I have recently been placed in charge of garbage.
That's good to know.
Oh my goodness, it is you! Greetings, Your Highness.
Who was that?
Eddie Murphy,
Just the man I met in the restroom.
Arsenio Hall, in a comedy fable of royal romance.
When I look at these contestants for the Miss Black Awareness pageant, I feel good.
Apparently, these are the best women Queens has to offer. Pick one and let's go home.
I want to tear you apart. And your friend, too. Coming to America.
Sir, I was wondering, did you happen to catch the professional football contest on television last night?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it was most exhilarating. The Giants of New York took on the Packers of Green Bay. And in the end, the Giants triumphed by kicking an oblong ball made of pigskin to a big H. It was a most ripping victory.
Son, you want to keep working here. Stay off the drugs.
They got the guy from Daft Punk. What's he called?
It's Nile Rodgers.
Nile Rodgers on the soundtrack.
Nile Rodgers with his funky bass.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just putting my phone on flight mode.
I'm switched to flip mode.
Flip mode is the squad.
Mode is the squad.
Busta Rhymes, he did one of his music videos was a homage to Coming to America. I think it was "Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See." I think.
What a tune!
What a tune! I'm pretty sure that's featuring him. The whole Zamunda stuff is parodied in "Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See."
Well, it's definitely going to come up. So, George, I got off. We're on a tangent there. Tangent Express. So, George, Coming to America. I've forgotten how many times I've seen this film. Should we start with first memories and then get on to production chat, maybe?
Yeah, but by all means. So, I don't know. I think this came up when we did Predator, one of our earliest episodes. I think I've seen this film so many times, I can't pinpoint a first memory.
It's just a blur. But to throw in this,
I do have fond memories of James Glendinning and I screaming sexual chocolate at each other. So it's a big film for the Glendinnings as well. So if you did have that on your Retro Ramble bingo card, you may drink. So yes, I have. But I don't really remember watching it with the Glendinnings, but whether it was just a mutual appreciation of it.
I think it was more that we would discover a film that we liked, and even though there were neighbours slightly further away, we'd look at the hill and we'd see James standing outside giving it a thumbs up going, yep, it's a funny film.
So yeah, that's. I don't remember whether this was a McGee family classic. I know obviously Trading Places is a big McGee family film, and at one point we will get McGee Senior, Mr. El Raymondo, on the show because Trading Places is probably
his favourite film.
It's right up there. Whereas this, I think it was. I don't remember Dad being as a big fan of it. Like as much as we.
No, this was more. I think this is kind of more. I mean, I heard it being described as you look at it's like Eddie Murphy's first romantic role. But no, all I felt going back and watching this was I was like, oh my God, we have watched this so much. But over the years, we've talked about a few films recently, like when we did Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja or Hero, I think it was Ninja Turtles, that we hadn't gone back to that film really since we were younger. And it was a bit like Karate Kid as well. We hadn't gone back to that. We've seen this so much together. I mean, we've referred to it. It's always been there.
Yeah, no, I think it is. To go on your point, it's probably the most memeable of Eddie Murphy's stuff. It's probably his most quotable. I mean, obviously,
he's playing 4 characters.
Yeah,
so
I would say arguably it's obviously when you think of Eddie Murphy at the height of his fame, it's between this and obviously Beverly Hills Cop. Sorry. Again, I think that probably ties into the fact that we got a lot of fun watching it out of it because we were probably watching it when we were too
usual.
Yeah, where we were too young, and we loved it because there was all the Eddie Murphy swearing and things like the royal penis is clean, seeing a bit of boobs.
It was the 80s.
It was
Side
80s.
boob was all in. Occasional boob was okay if it was late at night. If it was after 8 p.m.
But yeah, it's weird how much like I've watched this film and how I don't know how it connects people without sounding really cheesy, but it is. I say it's that instant quotability that as soon as you say something about coming to America, most of the time people will scream at you, sexual chocolate, or the royal penis is clean. It's so quotable. I would argue more quotable than Beverly Hills. I mean, Beverly Hills Cop is a lot of fun.
But it saves it for the end. There's a few wisecracks in here, and it's a true detective story. And then they have a big third act. That's what Beverly Hills Cop always is.
And I think that's it. This is where, in terms of, and we're sort of merging. We're on the boat.
Are we on the boat to production chatland?
We're on the boat to production chatland. But I think that's it. Like, obviously, Eddie Murphy's career. Let's do a bit of a recap. He started on Saturday Night Live. His first movie break was 48 Hours, which I watched recently, and that was his breakout role. And he is phenomenal in it. The film itself is one walking cliche of buddy cop thriller. Before buddy cop,
I'm Nick Nolte. I'm going to struggle you to death.
I'm just a drunk maverick cop. To be fair, it was doing it before. This is years before Lethal Weapon and everything. But that's for a later podcast. So yeah, Eddie Murphy broke out in 48 Hours. I think that sort of home run was Trading Places, opposite Dan Aykroyd. Then stardom was Beverly Hills Cop. Beverly Hills Cop 2, The Golden Child, which I've never seen. Have you seen, Charlie?
Never seen it, and you know what?
Because it probably wasn't.
And the reviews say it's pants.
It's pants. It's dated terribly, and you know what? I think it wasn't in the Glendenning's video collection. That's why I didn't see it. So
James is up the road at the top of a hill, giving it a thumbs down.
The Commodus thumbs down.
The Commodus thumbs up. You shall not watch.
So then this is the next film after that run. So he was pretty much on a hot streak. So because of that, it was sort of like, you can do anything, kid. And I think he was in back in the sort of, it still kind of was a studio system. He was aligned to Paramount Studios. And they sort of said, what do you want to do? And so he came up with this concept. So he wrote up a treatment, a story. And he was contemplating on directing it himself. And he would actually go on to, I think the year later, he would direct the only film he's done, Harlem Nights, with Richard Pryor, which is like a 1930s gangster type thing.
Heard it's a 2 or 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I've seen it. It should be a lot better considering the people involved. So he went out of his way to hire John Landis. So him and John Landis had worked together on Trading Places. He'd said out of all the directors that he'd worked with, so he'd worked with Tony Scott by that point, Martin Brest, Walter Hill for 48 Hours. He said he had the most fun on Trading Places. But at that point, John Landis was in a bit of a shit time during his career. He was going through. So according to Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy had this very revealing interview in Playboy magazine. And I've just read the interview. I just read it for the articles. This was in 1990, and he basically laid into John Landis and said John Landis was washed up at that point, like he'd had a string of flops. And I looked at John Landis's career, and it had, in that time between Trading Places and Coming to America, there was Spies Like Us, which
I enjoyed, but it's a B movie.
There was Three Amigos, which again is a classic to a lot of people. Then I think there was Into the Night, or he had some sort of film I'd never heard of, but the film that landed him in trouble was he did the Twilight Zone film. And on that film, there was a helicopter crash that killed 3 of the main actors, and two of them were kids. and it turned out they were working outside of like California labor laws. It was a crash at night. So him and I think a few other people on the production team went through this court case. And they were eventually acquitted of involuntary manslaughter. But because of that, the studios didn't want to touch him.
Yeah.
And Eddie Murphy fought his corner and was like, no, I want Landis. And they were like, you can have anyone you want, but we don't want Landis because of the whole Twilight Zone thing. And he was like, no, he's a great director. I've had fun working with him. I want Landis. And it turns out they didn't get on so well in this film.
Oh right, so he demanded that he was there, and then it went. I've made a terrible mistake.
I made a huge mistake. To quote Eddie Murphy, this is from the Playboy interview. He said, "I wanted to help out Landis. I figured I'd give this guy a shot because his career was fucked. He wound up fucking me."
It's all about fucking with Eddie.
Yeah, it's all about fuck you, Mr. Funny Man. So yeah, apparently, according to Eddie Murphy, Landis resented him because he hadn't gone to his Twilight Zone trial, and as a result, Landis would bully him on set and would give him loads of shit. And there was at one point, Landis was humiliating Eddie Murphy in front of Eddie Murphy's writers, and he was saying, "Well, is Eddie not paying you enough? Why aren't you paying these guys, Eddie?" So Eddie decided to playfully get John Landis in a headlock until he almost passed out, and John Landis ran off. This I'm quoting Eddie Murphy directly, so I'm not making this up. I cut his wind off. He fell down. His face turned red. His eyes watered up like a bitch, and then he ran off set. Then
not a lot of love there, George.
No, and then apparently Landis came and had a go at him the next day, saying, you're an asshole. You're in danger of ruining this film. But apparently Landis's side of the story, because there's obviously two sides. He said the guy on Trading Places was young and full of energy and curious and funny and fresh and great. The guy on Coming to America was the pig of the world. But and then he goes on to say loads of other stuff. But he says, but he was great. In fact, it's one of the greatest performances he's given. So John Landis.
They hated each other, but they got the best out of each other.
And they did obviously reconcile because they went on to create the classic that is known as Beverly Hills Cop Part 3.
Oh my God. The worst. This is probably not just the worst of the Beverly Hills Cop films, but it's arguably one of the worst sequels of the era.
And it's one of the films that Eddie Murphy's most ashamed of.
Is the one with the roller coasters?
It's the one that's set in a theme park. And I did it. It's been years since I've watched it because it's
not really a film, is it? It doesn't you don't care about anyone. You don't know anyone. They don't bring anyone back like they would today. They don't recreate anyone. Nobody's had kids. There's no following on. It's just like.
Well, yeah, apparently, sort of like I did a bit of reading on it again to refresh my memory, but apparently
instead of watching it, I do exactly the same, bro. Just read up that motherfucker. You don't want to watch that film again.
Well, yeah, apparently loads of the returning cast couldn't make it because of scheduling. Apparently, Eddie Murphy was at that point in his career that he wanted to be taken seriously as an actor, so he fought against. And he thought that Axel Foley had progressed as a character, so he wanted to play it more serious, whereas John Landis was, John Landis saying, play the funny stuff. People want to see you being funny. He's like, no, I want to be taken seriously. So apparently
Where's the drama? Where's the drama?
Yeah, he dials down the comedy and that. But so they obviously did make up. Obviously that was 6 years later.
I mean, they're able to work together again. That says
a lot. Yeah.
You start off by talking about so where was Eddie Murphy in his career? I don't know what else we need to cover on Production Island, Production Chat.
That's pretty much it, really.
Well, about his career in general, because I think it's fair to say, as you will see on any episode, Eddie Murphy's come up before. He'll always keep coming up. We've talked about, I think we've referenced Bowfinger in a few episodes because it's, for us, we can talk about that a bit. But let's talk about his career in general, because this is a guy, I think the point I'm trying to make is, we followed his career, whatever he's done, yes, there's been some films that we've said, no, when we've seen the film title, but we've followed him, whatever he's been doing. And there was a hiatus. And I think we've covered this before in another podcast. I don't remember which one, when we talked about, it might have been when we were talking about Dolomite. But yeah, he's still got it. And, just miss him. It's like there are all these great actors. Gene Hackman, you don't see him anymore.
Gene Hackman's retired.
Yeah, no, but there was a time. It's like you just don't see these certain actors anymore, and he's one of them. So.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think this is him probably at the peak of his career. I don't think he's really gone any higher. So I'm trying to think. After this, he's done. There was Boomerang, Distinguished Gentleman, Beverly Hills Cop 4, and then
there's a fourth one.
Beverly Hills Cop 3. Then it started.
Jesus Christ! It was using Crystal Skull.
But then obviously it just started dipping. We have I don't know. I suppose the. So the
Dr. Dolittle, there was Nutty Professor. He's making money. He was making money.
I know that's it. And he's always.
And we went to see. I remember you and I went to see Nutty Professor together.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning the writers on this, Barry Blaustein and David Sheffield. They would go on to write a lot of his films. So they wrote this. They wrote Boomerang. They wrote Nutty Professor. The Clumps, and I'm trying to think what
they were basically just generating movie ideas for him.
They became his go-to writers, essentially.
Yeah, but it's almost, imagine if you're a guy like him and then you've got this good writing team, and they just keep sending me stuff and he's just picking them,
Yeah.
I think my question was, he's had a bit of a bumpy time in his career. He's had a moment where he's got a big personality. We know what it is, and we love it, and we want to see the good side of it, sort of thing. And I think Bowfinger, we will do that when the time is right. But that is just because he'd taken a bit of a break, and he came back, and it was the same Steve Martin. We hadn't seen him for ages, and it was almost like some of their best work together. And yeah, do you get the feeling that with Dolomite, and on the basis if coming number 2 sounds weird. I mean, it's convenient. It's like Dumb and Dumber, but it's coming to America. If that's good as well, could it possibly be a reconnaissance type thing?
I don't know, because
I think he's got the chops. Is my point.
I mean, he's tried a few times. So obviously he was tried to be taken seriously, and I think he got an Oscar nomination for Dreamgirls. But apparently the reason that he didn't win it is because in the same year he did Norbit, and that was apparently such an offensive, terrible film. I've seen
bits of that on Sky. I was forced to. You keep picking it up. Okay, is this good? Is Eddie Murphy? Sometimes you give him the trust, and if you watch something like Norbit, or there was the Clumps, the spin-off from. Nutty Professor, because I think to be fair, we enjoyed it. Very predictable rom-com with a different side to it. Kind of like Shallow Hal. It's like one of those films that it was a early noughties film and it worked, but not all of his stuff has been good.
No, I think that's it. The important thing is that his career is really sort of wavered since the mid-90s, that he's had a bunch of flops. He's had, stuff like Nutty Professor, as you say, was a big hit.
We enjoyed that.
I haven't watched it in years, but it was a lot of fun at the time.
Jada Pinkett Smith looked like a nice young lady.
But I think ever since then it's kind of wavered. I say he's had quite a few stinkers, and then he's tried to be taken seriously. I say the Dreamgirls. I haven't seen Dreamgirls, but everyone says
everyone raves about it.
He's phenomenal in it. He's had this back in the spotlight with Dolomite, which you and I loved. It's a return to form.
Eddie Murphy swearing again in high definition. Love that. In 4K. Bring it on.
And that was, the reason that we're doing this episode was because Coming to America is reuniting him with that the same director, Craig Brewer. It's reuniting all the same cast. I was looking through on IMDb. So you've got obviously Arsenio Hall, you've got John Amos, you've got the girl who plays Lisa. You've even got the guy. I'm washing the salad now. I'm doing the fries, but in 1 to 2 years, I'll be assistant manager. Even he's coming back. So it looks like a proper reunion. They're even getting Wesley Snipes is on board as well. So yeah,
that's got to be connected to them having fun on
Dolomite. So yeah, it's a real shit. I'm really annoyed that we, obviously to people, I think a lot of people will be rewatching this with the new one coming out. So, maybe just if you want to, you can hold off listening to this until the new one comes out in March. But, we decided we're going to do it because we love this film.
So, shall we talk about the film? I mean, I don't know how much we've edited out, but we've been here for 4 hours and we haven't started talking about the film.
I don't know when's the best time to talk about reception of the film when it first came out.
We talked about first memories briefly at the start of the show. George has filled us in on a lot of the trivia, some very interesting stuff going on behind the scenes, but we obviously didn't see this at cinema. We definitely didn't rent it on video. This is something we watched on TV. This was a TV movie for us. So, George, enlighten me. How did it do in the box office?
So it was critically panned on release. I mean, this is according to some of the big American press outlets. So the LA Times called it a plentiful waste of time and money. The Hollywood Reporter said it is likely to leave the legions of line waiters in numbed, disbelieving disappointment. And even Paramount didn't have faith in it. So,
was this their own film? It's shit, don't go and see it.
Yeah, no, they didn't. They didn't screen it to critics because they just didn't think it was that funny, and they saw it as a black film, so they didn't think it was going to be very good. However, audiences loved it, and it performed better than Beetlejuice, which we've covered, Die Hard, which we've covered, and Big. So it became the third biggest box office hit of 1988, eventually grossing a worldwide gross of 300 million. And back in that time, that's some serious money.
I think what I, looking back on it now, we've watched this again and again over the years. But what I enjoyed in this is the fact that they, it's an entirely black cast, apart from the guy who used to work trash and is now waiting for his season. But that's refreshing. Also, the beginning of the film, I don't think I'm going to jump through the film. We'll talk about our favorite bits. It's probably quicker. But there's Wakanda vibes, like Black Panther Wakanda vibes when you have the intro and you're like, well, which came first? But yeah, there's a lot to like about, this element of the film.
I think it's a landmark film for black film, for black cinema. It is one of the most, before Black Panther. And as you say, Black Panther is a very relevant touchstone because when Black Panther came out, rightly so, it was celebrated that it was a through and through black production in terms of all the creative people involved, all the cast, and the fact that it being a big Marvel picture, a $200 million picture. And it was a huge, billion-dollar success.
Isn't it the only Marvel film to get Oscar nominated as well?
Probably outside of effects, yeah. I think some of them might have got like effects nominations over the years, but I think Black Panther definitely got a few more.
It was
nominated for Best Film.
Yeah.
So that was the big thing for Black Panther. But
maybe that's just where it is now. But I mean, the overall point I was trying to make is just, one, it was refreshing to see an almost entire black cast. The other thing that I found very refreshing, I mean, this is why back in the day they would have called this a black film, was they just show how the class imbalances exist regardless of race. That Daryl, the spoon in his mouth is a
You mean the Prince of Soul Glow?
Oh my God. We could talk for hours about insert advert. I can't do it justice. Let's just play the ad.
You can be all the things you've always wanted to be. Beautiful, sexy, easy as 1, 2, 3. Just let your soul go. Just let it shine through. Just let your soul. Feeling oh so silky smooth, just let it shine through. Just let your soul go.
I think you're, spot on there. The fact that it's it's not just about one class. It handles class in black culture very well. The fact is, you've got McDowell is a self-made man. You know, he's a product of the American dream. He's grafted his way to getting that restaurant. But Daryl's the complete opposite. He's, as you say, he's been gifted everything he's got. But there's a really nice community spirit. You've got the barbershop, you've got the Black Awareness Week, and yes, you could say, well, it's, you know, playing the sort of the card of the black man as a criminal because you've got all the neighborhood that robs him of all his belongings, but they're happier, they're warmer, and Prince Akeem's like, yeah, you know, he goes, they will benefit from having my stuff more than I will. So it handles it very well.
I think overall, that's what I love about this film. It's like touched on, it's tongue in cheek almost in Trading Places, or they're treading the water. But in this, I really get the feeling that it's an American black man saying, yeah, you think it's just about black and white. It's not. It's like, we have a class system. Even if we don't have the problem of racism, we still actually have rich people. You know, we have people taking advantage of each other. We have serious problems, and it shows a real community. And I can understand why in '88 this was seen as a black movie, but now I put it up there with Black Panther. It's like, it's so refreshing to see. We need to have films like that don't have, you know, X amount of invested actors in every film just because it sells tickets.
No, it's funny. I was reading an article on it in the Washington Post on it, and it was saying it was doing that comparison between Black Panther and this, and it was saying that
I only thought of this watching it now. Yeah, so, I mean, Black Panther definitely took something. Maybe it was just the drums. Maybe we're being stereotypical about African culture.
But there's
massive similarities.
No, there's huge similarities in terms of this hidden, very rich, you know, flamboyant African society
that connects with the Western world.
Yeah. And I think there were comparisons when Black Panther came out of that sort of saying, you know, it's coming to America meets kind of Marvel type thing. But no, the point the article I read in the Washington Post is saying that most celebrated black films and successful black films are all about oppression. They're usually about slavery, or, you know, whereas this was a joyous celebration. And I think that's why this film is appealing. You know, it's cross generations, it's cross cultures, because yes, it's a fairy tale at the end of the day, you know.
Oh no, but I mean, this is something that I always think a benchmark is like, you know, are we on the right path or anything? But you look at what the critics said at the time versus what they said over the years, and they say, yeah, I mean, this is a fairy tale that we've all known. You know, a rich guy goes and pretends to be poor to find a girl that will fall in love with him for who he is. God, how many times have we seen that? And the fact is, they do a good job. And I think, you know, you said the critics panned it. One of the most, because the name stuck out to me when I was doing a little bit of research, is Ebert. Ebert was like, yeah, it's great. Give them a screenplay. Give Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall another film to do, because he was very impressed with the story. But he says it just seemed lazy. It was like he was basically missing what you said earlier. He was missing the Eddie Murphy energy. And what I was impressed with going back and watching this, it's been a few years, maybe 2-3 years since I've seen this, was the acting of both Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, in terms of they maintain their African accents throughout, and it's convincing. It doesn't seem forced. It's one of the things. It's like, this is the only project can you name me another project where Eddie Murphy's being anything other than kind of what he is in every film?
Well, there's a Vampire in Brooklyn, which is less said. I don't know if that's John Landis, but that's pretty bad. He's trying to be obviously some sort of Transylvania type,
like 90s version of Blade.
It's terrible. It's kind of it's like, okay, let's try and do what we did with this, but instead of an African prince, it's a vampire.
I'm out,
and that just doesn't really work. Eddie Murphy's charming, whatever he does. He has that winning glint. He has that, you know, $1 million or, you know, practically $1 billion smile that will win anyone over. And he does it in this. But but he's
a brutal, intelligent, talented comedian. You know,
no, but in this,
it's an active mind.
It's a very naive.
I want to be taken seriously.
But it's not naive. It's like, it's the fact that Akeem is very well educated. He quotes Nietzsche and stuff like that. But it's just that constant joy in life. The fact that he's got that joy of living in squalor. He's got that joy of like working in McDowell's, mopping the floor. I'm here to take out your garbage. And it's just that it's infectious. And yes, he has. It's weird because he obviously has. It's a persona. He is lying. He's lying through his teeth, but there is such a warmth and a genuine heart to this film that a lot of Eddie Murphy's films didn't have up to that point, and have tried to sort of recapture ever since, like Nutty Professor and stuff like that. But I don't think, considering his alternate persona of, his stand-up with Raw, with Delirious, he's talking about fucking everything that moves, and whereas this, it's, as you say, it's a romantic comedy. It's
but it's very heart. There's a lot of heart there, yeah. And I think she does a great job, Lisa. There's a few scenes in it I was like, she could be wearing Kevlar. The size of her, Retro Ramble term, life preserver, is, it looks like she's wearing a body armor at one point. I'm just like,
I'm sorry, if it comes down to costumes, it's all about Daryl. Daryl has some amazing outfits in this.
Well,
even puts the
Daryl
African
and his family, and he's such a douche. Daryl gets the douche award in this episode.
Definite douche.
He is the guy. He was the guy out of Die Hard.
Dick Thornburg.
When I'm saying it's the Dick Thornburg douche award, I think we have to. We have to present it for each film that we cover.
Oh yeah, he's so hateable, and yes, he has the greasy mouth. And obviously, Eric LaSalle would go on to. He was made it big in ER. He even cropped up in Logan. I think the most recently. Yeah. But that's it.
I want to say a bit of respect. I think this has come up before, like when we talk about Samuel L. Jackson in Loaded Weapon, that they can do a comedy and they can prove, like we talked about this with Val Kilmer as well, that there's certain actors who haven't done anything in comedy, but once or twice they've gone over in a comedy and they've shown they've got the time.
They've nailed it.
They've nailed it, and then they've gone back into, and I think it's a case of that.
Yeah, but Daryl is very much just the straight man. He's the villain of the piece.
I know, but he's such a douche. He's pronounced that. Actually, we've all known guys like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. I would have helped out, but my hands were holding coffee.
I had 2 cups of coffee. He's such a douche. Yeah, and they'll let yourself.
Well, and Nile Rodgers did say, and we talked about Nile Rodgers of Chic, one of the greatest guitarists of all time. Behind Get Lucky, he's a man behind David Bowie's Let's Dance, known for his iconic riffs. And even he said, I don't know, obviously tongue-in-cheek, that Soul Glow is one of his greatest achievements. And, that's literally, 30 seconds of pure joy.
Oh, no,
but in fairness, it's a cracking soundtrack, isn't it?
All the way through. And that was why I noticed that in the credits, and I noticed that
it's even got a theme tune at the end, Charlie.
Yeah, and it's all of that, but I don't know how to put this. I think in terms of a disclaimer, we are doing this. We were children when we saw these films, and I think there's a lot that nostalgia has to answer for here. But when I see the 80s presented, even in this film, which is showing a, disgruntlement between classes. When I see it presented in this film, you do kind of think, oh, them were their days. It's like, you could see there's a lot of it in Trading Places, that even though there's all this yuppieism and there's like very up and down, you've got to work, you've got to earn to live type thing. The people in the film are kind of grabbing bits of happiness that they shouldn't have. There's a lot of that in Coming to America as well. So I don't know. I think that's nostalgia speaking, but that's the warm feeling I get when I watch this film. It's not the story. It's kind of how it's presented.
But as you say, I think there's a lot of 80s films that can be perceived as cynical. Like, Trading Places is very satirical.
Yeah, capitalist. It's a satire on capitalism.
Yeah. Whereas this, I think, it's a fairy tale. It has a lot of heart, but it's so fucking funny at the end of the day as well. There's and I think a lot of that is that fact that it's an Eddie Murphy thing, that it's him flexing his power, his comedy muscles, say, that stuff from Saturday Night Live, saying, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to play multiple characters because it's my movie. And this is the first time he did it. And apparently he was, Peter Sellers was a hero of his, and Peter Sellers was renowned for doing multiple roles in films. And Eddie Murphy was like, I want to do that. And I think obviously it helps with some phenomenal prosthetics by Rick Baker. Rick Baker is one of the best guys in Hollywood.
The Jewish guy. Most people don't realize that's Eddie Murphy.
Well, that's it. When we were younger, and it comes up at the end with all the credits, and it said Eddie Murphy, I was convinced when I was a kid that was a typo. I was like, no, that's a joke. That's clearly not Eddie Murphy. That's some random dude.
We didn't realize where makeup was back then.
No, that's it. But the thing is, you could recognize that he's the old barber. You could recognize he's Jackson Heights. Randy Watson. You could recognize that was him, but it was such a transfer. And apparently I was reading that when he had the makeup done as the old Jewish guy, as Saul, he would go walk onto other film sets and be like, I'm Eddie Murphy. And they were like, no, you're not. And he's like, yes, I am. But yeah, Rick Baker's one of the, he's up there, him and Stan Winston are the best makeup effects in Hollywood. So everything, obviously he did American Werewolf in London, but he's done
Say no more.
Yeah, he's done everything. Most big Hollywood pictures, if it's involving, he's done Men in Black, he's done King Kong, he did Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah, what else?
He's been there.
What else? There's something else that came out. He would go on to work with Eddie Murphy on Nutty Professor, The Clumps, and Norbit. And I think Norbit did win an Oscar for special effects or for makeup. He's done X-Men. Oh, that was the one I was forgetting. Baker is the guy behind Robert Downey Jr.'s Tropic Thunder makeup.
Wow. Oh my God.
So he's done it the other way.
He's yeah, I mean, the thing I want to say about this in terms of films for Eddie Murphy, in terms of romantic comedy, this has much more Trading Places about it than, say, Boomerang. Because and this shows where we were in our lives. I can remember watching, Trading Places and stuff when we were about 9 or 10. And then Boomerang for me was much later. This was a date movie with girlfriends and stuff. And it was purely played as that, but not as funny. Not enough Arsenio Hall, not enough costumes. This was still riding the coattails of Trading Places type film. So you can see the drop. You can see that Trading Places was the peak. Yeah. And this was this, and then what was the other film you mentioned earlier? They did Beverly Hills Cop 3. So it's going. You see what I'm saying?
No, but I think that's it. They're like this. And I think that the reason it got ripped apart by the critics is because, yes, it's a tale as old as time. As you say, the prince and the pauper type thing, the prince in poor person's clothes, what have you. But it's the moments that makes it so fond to people, and the reason that we remember everything and keep going back is those little scenes of the barbershop, which is brilliant, of the Black Awareness Week with Randy Watson and the Reverend Loving the Lord is Wrong.
That's Arsenio Hall.
Yeah, I want to thank God.
To believe in the Lord. when he's checking out that pageant. I mean, in today's world, it's so wrong. I don't want it. If loving the Lord is wrong, I don't want to be right.
And that's it. There's so many moments that they just elevate it, and it's a little bit, I suppose you could say, and obviously he would go on to do it in like Nutty Professor and The Clumps. It does become a little bit Saturday Night Live sketchy. They don't have really any bearing on the story, but they're fucking brilliant. I'm sorry, I'm swearing a lot in this episode, but it's just to reflect on my love for Eddie Murphy.
Fuck you, Eddie.
Fuck you, Mr. The funny man.
The fuck you, man.
We haven't touched on McDowell's. They've got the golden arches. Mine are the golden arcs.
What do you think happened here? Do you get the feeling that McDonald's approached them for a sponsorship thing, and then the conversation went sour, and the company just went, "Fuck you, we are gonna"? I think that. I mean, why else?
No, I've got some trivia on this. So because you and I talked about this prior, and I just can't get my head around it. Why is it so vital to the plot? And you were like, oh, maybe it's an FU, from Eddie Murphy to McDonald's. But they had sign off from McDonald's head office to do it. And so what they did was they...
maybe it was McDonald's saying, you can do it, but just don't use our fucking name because it's film tanks.
No, it said you can do it. You could do it as a parody. And so they took over an old Wendy's restaurant, a Wendy's restaurant that was going through renovation. So they kitted it out in all this McDowell signage. But even though it had been signed off by McDonald's head legal team, the manager of the nearest McDonald's down the road saw it and turned up on the first day and was taking pictures you guys are going to be sued to fuck. You're going to hear from our lawyers and everything. And they were like, but we've got sign off on this. He's like, I don't care who you are. You're going to be sued for everything. So yeah, but apparently that Wendy's was there for years. I think it got demolished about 5 years ago or something like that. But yes, it wasn't a McDonald's restaurant. It was a Wendy's. But
they did have McDonald's permission.
Yes, they did. But there's even the thing I never noticed until going through it. There's a moment when Leo McDowell, towards the end, he's looking through a McDonald's employee handbook and he gets rumbled. And it's like, sir, there's some people here to see you. And he's like, they're not from McDonald's, are they? And it's when it's Jaffe Jaffer. So yeah, there's a lovely tiny moment I've never noticed before that he's clearly he's got the rule book of McDonald's.
I didn't notice it this time, but now you're talking about it, I have noticed that before. And that's not me this shows how much we've watched this film. Should we talk about James Earl Jones a little bit?
Well, I was going to say, I just mentioned Jaffe Jaffer, and how have we not got to the dulcet sounds of James Earl Jones? I mean, that man devours dialogue.
I mean, but this is the thing about, for all you kids who think Morgan Freeman's old, it's like before Morgan Freeman, there was James Earl Jones. And it's like, I think one of the happiest moments of the internet gaining in popularity and things like YouTube was when George and I discovered that someone had taken the scenes of Darth Vader in Star Wars and added King Jaffe Jafar.
Well, no, it's basically, Charlie, I revisited in preparation for this podcast, and it's...
Oh, you've got to check these out. These are amazing.
It's everything that James Earl Jones has done. A lot of it is coming to America.
There's a lot of his black exploitation films within this Darth Vader. It's brilliant.
It's genius. It's just like Lord Vader. It's like, I feel you have been inconvenienced. Shall we say $5 million American dollars? Yes, we'll put that on the blog. But yes, James Earl Jones devours dialogue in this, and I kind of get the feeling he's a bit of a sex tourist when he's like, go away, sow those royal oats, have fun. And he's like, no, Dad, I want to find someone I can fall in love with. He's like, yes, go find those women.
40 days, shall we say? And both the parents, everything about it. One thing we didn't talk about in the beginning was the opening scene.
Well, all of the Zamunda stuff is
she's
brilliant.
the queen to me. I forgot about that.
Free of infection. At your discretion.
So much to unpack in that, George. We're going to have to do a separate podcast on the opening scene.
The scenes. Well, no, that's it. Again, I forgot how much detail there is in there. There's the alarm clock, which is the choir. There's the wipers. There's obviously the bit everyone remembers with the royal penis. But there's even the gag that's used in Batman a year or so later with the massive table. So there's loads in there.
All the choreographed dancing and
you mean the 2 minute long, completely unnecessary synchronized dancing?
It's the era of MTV. That's when I saw that scene. I was just like, choreographed dancing, big scene like that. It's like, this is for MTV.
Well, I remember you and I revisiting it a few years ago when I lived in London, and you and I had a few drinks, and I think I turned to you halfway through the dance and was like, well, this is going on forever.
I don't remember it being this long.
And they're still dancing. Keep dancing. Keep dancing.
She's the queen.
But that was, Charlie, there's some more trivia there. That was choreographed by none other than Paula Abdul. And Paula Abdul was a former Laker girl at the time. There's
Don't
a
you think they need to be taken down a peg or two?
There's a reference for Bowfinger, if you hadn't seen it. Hey, Laker girls. Don't laugh.
For all you Bowfinger fans out there.
But yes, it's a very extravagant, that whole Zamunda thing. But yeah, I can't get enough of Jaffe Jaffer. James Earl Jones, his voice is just liquid caramel. But the thing I didn't realize, again, there's some more trivia, that him and the lady that plays the Queen, Madge Sinclair, would go on to, obviously everyone knows James Earl Jones becomes, what's he called?
Darth Vader.
No. the other one. No, the Lion King. Mustafa.
Yeah.
But Mustafa's wife is Madge Sinclair. So the Queen of Zamunda also plays the Lion King's mum. So it's some very canny casting. And there's a bit where James Earl Jones obviously he's wearing a lion in this. I'm like, lion cape, Lion King.
There's a link between this and Darth Vader. It's like Luke, Simba, and that the Simpsons did a great.
No, but there's again, it's something I only found out just it went past me by. But there's a bit where he turns up at McDowell's, and McDowell's like, "Oh yeah, Akeem, I'll get a hold of him." And he goes, "No, do not alert him to my presence. I shall deal with him myself." And that's
it's very Darth Vader.
And they've said that's intentionally a riff on Vader's line for "No, leave them to me. I will deal with them myself."
You and I have talked about this before. I mean, this is why we do the podcast. This is the sort of conversation George and I would have, because it's a sort of conversation.
This is a conversation. Yes.
We are having a good conversation. No, but I mean, this is the sort of thing we spotted this before. Is what my point is.
Yeah.
When we watched this when we were young, like that's very Vader.
Very Vader. But yeah, it's full of so many like small performances. As I say, you've got cameo L. Jackson in a
cameo L. Jackson.
I think we have to touch on the point that we did watch this recording off TV, and again, I need to look up on YouTube, but the TV edits of Forget You.
And was this a flan? Doesn't he say flan?
Oh, I don't know, but I think
it's something like flan or...
Yeah, I need to track down where they've got creative with the swearing.
That and Die Hard. I think this and Die Hard were edited so much. Die Hard.
Oh, you mean the other shared universe in this?
Die Hard 2.
So
McDowell's such a badass in Die Hard 2.
You've got McDowell,
I kind of like you, McClane.
The amazing John Amos, who I think his physical comedy towards the end of this film, where he's just going manic and really high pitched and running around, is brilliant. But the other Die Hard 2 connection is actually
I spotted this.
I don't know if he's the real stepbrother or real life brother of Orsino Hall, but it's the guy that crossed him at the baseball game. My prince.
I know it's the guy. It's the first guy in the baggage handler with Brucey. I spotted that.
So obviously there is the shared universe of McDowell gets disgruntled and finds somebody to join his team, as well as obviously the other shared universe in this, which is an actual shared universe of the Duke and Duke brothers.
Randolph, leave me alone, Mortimer. Randolph. I'm still not talking to you.
Yeah, oh, brilliant. Yeah.
But that was, we always joke about the whole shared universe thing. That was one of the first times it's probably been done.
I can't think of another.
And everyone was like, that's amazing. But apparently, I'm probably jumping the gun.
There's probably been other jokes. There's obviously been jokes where films have referenced older films, but I'm not sure one film to another from the same director have done it in like that way.
Well, apparently, I was saving this for...
Apart from Bond. They link their films together.
But obviously, that's the same universe. This was obviously, two separate films.
Two different characters, yeah, you're right.
But I was saving this for Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda, but I've got some others. But apparently...
Is it not time for Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda?
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
So Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda is where George and I discuss actors who were considered for the role but weren't chosen in the end. Sometimes directors, sometimes writers. What do you got for me this month?
So to go back to the link, we're obviously just chatting about the Duke and Duke brothers turning up from Trading Places. Apparently they almost tried to get Paul Gleason, better known as Clarence Beeks. So yeah, they tried to get Paul Gleason, but he was busy doing a film called Die Hard. Die Hard.
Oh my God, Clarence speaks. Of course.
So yeah, they try to get him back to make it a threesome of sorts. I mean, I don't know how he would have cropped up. So yes, that was one woulda shoulda. But in terms of the role of King Jaffe Jaffer, apparently Sidney Poitier was also considered.
He was hot shit back then.
And Vanessa Williams was considered for the role of Lisa. Vanessa Williams is the very attractive
girl out of Boomerang. No, that was Robin Hall.
Yeah, Vanessa Williams is the lead in Eraser, the girl that Arnie's trying to protect in Eraser. And
protect
and erase. Sorry, I had to fit in an Arnie impression in there. So yes, that's a very brief coulda, woulda, shoulda. Have you got any suspicious spin-offs? I've got there is an official suspicious.
Well, no. I thought we've covered a few films like this in the past where you and I have been covering a film because we did this with Bad Boys. So in the same way we dealt with Bad Boys, rather than give you a suspicious spin-off, I'm going to talk about what I'd like to see in the upcoming film. So I'd like to see him doing the multiple roles again, even if it's just once. I don't want it to be relied upon. I don't want it to be overused.
Well, according to IMDb, he's credited for Coming to America 2 as Akeem/Randy. So I'm very excited. That means we are going to get to see the return of Jackson Heights' own Mr. Randy Watts.
Damn, that was good. Yeah, I mean, there's some amazing things to like that about. But what I'd like to see in the film, more of the Eddie Murphy we saw in Dolomite, and Arsenio Hall back. And I'd like to see more of him because we didn't get talk shows. We didn't have access. I mean, now we can watch whatever recorded talk show we want via YouTube. We didn't have that.
Well,
So he completely passed us by. And I feel like I missed something now. I feel, because you and I discovered in Living Colour, about 5 or 10 years after it had actually been on TV, and we loved
when we were in America, wasn't it? Or we were.
Yeah, it was still reruns then.
Yeah,
it was early 90s.
Well, that's the weird thing. Like Arsenio Hall, you look at his film career, and he didn't do a great deal. This is probably his biggest thing. But yeah, as you say, it was really bizarre when Charlie and I were doing I don't know if it was our prep for Universal Soldier, or it might have even been afterwards, but I sent Charlie a clip of Van Damme on the Arsenio Hall show. And he was hot shit. Like I think from like the late 80s to sort of mid 90s, he was one of the biggest talk show hosts in America.
Fallon, John Oliver.
Yeah, he had loads of the stars on there. And yeah, he obviously made a lot of money doing that. But it's great to see he will be back for the sequel as well.
And Wesley. I mean, when I saw
Wesley.
No, but I think you must feel the same as me when you saw My Name is Dolomite, and you're just like, yeah, it's via Netflix. But Wesley doing something different. Eddie Murphy's back, and you kind of think, why the hell didn't these two make more films together? And the fact that they're doing another film together, I'm really happy about this. I'm like, this could be really good energy for the two of them.
Well, as we've probably said, it's great to see funny Wesley. It's great to see Eddie Murphy back on form, but it's great to see
Wesley's much better when he's funnier than trying to be taken seriously.
Well, that's it. As much as we love Blade, he's so stoic and monosyllabic. He doesn't get that chance to shine, whereas Eddie Murphy,
it's a good performance when you know what Wesley can do in terms of campness.
Wesley can have that Eddie Murphy energy, and so it's great. I'm looking forward to what
we talked about this in Demolition Man. That we love that side of. It's probably one of his best performances when he's like let loose. He's got it in him.
Let Wesley loose. Yeah. No.
So sorry, that's a very vague. Suspicious spin-offs, but in terms of what let's see, but we know everyone's going to feature, so let's talk about the grand sort of plot points that are likely to happen. So what has he had kids?
Yeah, I think
he's getting a divorce. Has he got a twin brother? Has she got an evil sister? Are they going on holiday? I mean, what are they doing?
Let's all go on holiday. No, it's a terrible idea.
Is it in Zamunda? Is it going to be like? I think maybe there's going to be some of that.
I think, it's
Crocodile Dundee 2.
I think it is going to be let's go back to Zamunda. No, I think it is going to be a typical nostalgia like fest of, okay, what worked in the first one, what can we touch on? But I hope it doesn't rely on that too much, that it comes up with something fresh. And you would hope so after 30 33 years, 32 years, that it's, they should have something good up their sleeves. But yeah, in terms of, there's an official Suspicious spin-off where they actually tried to spin it off as a TV series in 1989.
So each week, Prince Akeem would visit a country and have 40 minutes to find a wife.
Charlie, unsurprisingly, it didn't get past the pilot stage. And apparently it was absolutely terrible. But yeah, from my point of view, if we want to spin off stuff, I would happily watch an entire series on the barbershop guys.
That would work. You could have different. That could be an SNL sketch. But if there was an SNL sketch and you had different celebrities coming in every week, it would become a big hit.
Well, we didn't mention the man in the chair, Cuba Gooding Jr.
Smile, doesn't say anything.
Apparently he had more lines that were cut, but yeah, no, he crops up. But also, I would happily invest my money in watching a fake documentary following Sexual Chocolate on tour.
Well, no, I've got a better idea. I'd like to see that whole thing, the Black Awareness. I'd like to see a behind-the-scenes documentary
of him
about
having a breakdown.
No, just the whole show. So, like, you'd have the pageant, then you'd have the Sexual Chocolate, then you'd have the child drive, and you could have a show like a sort of Peter Kay's Phoenix Nights about what goes on in that town hall with him.
Oh, definitely.
Randy Watson would feature a lot.
So,
who can I just say? We'll move on from Randy Watson, but when everyone, you see it bounded about very trendy conversation to talk about mic drop. If you ever wanted the official imagery of a mic drop and the exit that he does with his fingers, Jackson Heights' own is the man.
I remember a friend of mine at work, Lee, and I used to just frequently watch the Randy Watson clip on YouTube, so much so that another guy in the office was like, you guys are just constantly watching that. Surely it's not funny anymore. We're like, shut up. But it was just like, the whole hand movement of pointing to the crowd.
And then getting the fuck out. And then dropping the mic. Brilliant. Right, okay, so I think it's time we gave a few shout outs to our listeners and followers who've taken the time to get in touch. So, George, I've got a list of them here. I can't see. Am I going first with this James Brown?
Yeah, so we've got James Brown or JSlim55 on Instagram. He says, where are all the Randy Watson tribute acts? The world could really use some Sexual Chocolate right now. Can't agree with you more there, Jim. Can't agree with you more.
I disagree. I think there is some Sexual Chocolate out there, but we just haven't discovered them. So the trick now is to find somebody who represents them and stamps his feet when people don't applaud enough. So yeah, next shout out to our friend Antonio Garcia Amonte. So he gave us the name of what this was in the Spanish title because George and I love those.
Lost in translation.
Some of the foreign titles mean so much more. So yeah, it was El Príncipe de Zamunda, so yeah, just Princess Zamunda. Didn't want to, the Coming to America, I suppose, wouldn't really work. So yeah, one of his funny films from the 80s, big fun. Like, whereas there's some sort of disastrous film, Pluto Nash.
Yes.
Do you know what that film could be?
Yeah, Pluto Nash was a science fiction comedy, I think set on the moon. It was like high special effects.
It's on the moon.
Yeah, a high special effects budget. And it was Eddie Murphy's biggest like flop of his career. That was kind of the nail in the coffin around, I don't know if
for that decade.
I don't know if that was after Norbit, but yeah, it was pretty disastrous. So next up we have another regular listener of the show, Dennis C.K. Pang, saying he was very excited about this. So hopefully we've done it justice, Dennis. But he said it's definitely one of his faves growing up, along with Weird Science. I mean, I think it's one of our favorite comedy films as well.
I think the fact we haven't really gone through the film beat by beat like we tend to do in a lot of our other episodes is because I think we're trying to show respect to this film and just like what it means rather than pick it apart, because just watch the film, enjoy it. This is just a celebration. But that moves us on to our friend Casey Millwood. Also, I heard a lot from Casey. Sexual Chocolate was robbed. I mean, damn, that boy's good. He's just not getting enough respect.
Good and terrible.
How much we're obviously going to see a lot more of him based on, you were saying how much you watch the memes of Randy Watson. I think one of the reasons he's going to feature more in the sequel is because he's
so
stood
celebrated.
The test of time.
Yeah.
He stood the test of time for sure.
So celebrated. This really doesn't do justice, but Jeremy...
A picture speaks 1,000 words.
Yeah, Jeremy Grinrich got in touch with us, and he's obviously a big fan because he sent in a picture of his Halloween outfit as Jaffy Jaffer, and it's pretty damn impressive. So good work, sir.
Future usage. I hope that survived Halloween. I mean,
we applaud you. That's some good effort there.
And then Andy McEwen, obviously, giving a shout out to the guys in the barbershop, just like us. Them talking about boxing, hilarious. Joey Lewis, Cassius Clay. Mama called him Cassius Clay. I'm going to call him Cassius Clay. I mean, it's...
yes, I mean, Dr. King.
Yeah, I mean, I think just goes to show this film broke boundaries. And this was, as you say, MTV was big and you got all the choreographed things. But movies were in their heyday. Looking back from where we are now in 2020, this was a golden era of cinema, and we were kind of spoiled. You know, we got these got on film TV, but I think this film stands at the test of time. Anything else you want to talk about, George?
No. I mean, yeah, just to echo those points that, you know, it's amazing that a film can resonate with so many people. It's a cracking comedy. I think I would argue that it's Eddie Murphy's best. I mean, I think
it's his best work. I was going to say that before when we were talking about the accents and everything else. I think this is his best acting job. I mean, you know, obviously, because it is, you know, it is the Eddie Murphy show. You know, it is. You could say it's a little. He's doing comedy all over the place, just not in the central character. So. You could say the multiple characters are a little bit self-indulgent if we want to be critical, but they're so much fun. It's Eddie Murphy.
It's Eddie Murphy, and Trading Places is a two-hander, if not, you know, more people involved. Obviously, you got Jamie Lee Curtis
and Dan Aykroyd and Denham Elliott all doing, and the guys who pop up in this film.
Yeah,
the Duke
and
Clarence.
I think it's between this and Beverly Hills Cop, but yeah, for me, I think this is so much fun. It's so feel good. Yeah, I watched it the other night. Yeah, it's probably been maybe a year or two since I last saw it, and I was still laughing my head off. As Charlie says, you know, we haven't ripped apart the plot and gone into it bit by bit. Hopefully we haven't annoyed you with our bad impressions.
We don't feel we need to. We don't. Well, I mean, the bad impressions are part and parcel of the show, but I think this film deserves more as a general discussion about the film rather than, what about the middle bit? What about the plot? What about the choreography?
And what we'll do, I think Charlie and I will probably do a little mini episode on the sequel and share our thoughts with it when it comes out in March. Because I'm sure if you've enjoyed listening to this, you might want to hear our thoughts on the new one. Does it, you know, how it holds up?
Excellent. Anything else to mention? I mean, you can find us at...
It's Christmas, Theo, so I think we need to wish all our listeners a Merry Christmas. If this hasn't filled your Christmas boots, obviously, we've got other Christmas episodes out there. We've got Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Gremlins. So there are other Christmas films to fill your boots that we've covered. Obviously, there's plenty of Christmas podcasts out there.
No, it's been fun, and as I say, all I can say is when I went to watch this film, we know that we have to get these things recorded. We both have other things to do, and it's like, okay, when am I going to watch this? I watched this film over a week ago, like way before we needed to cover it. And when I watched it, I was just like, I almost got blasé. I was like, yep, and then he says this, and then he says this, and then they do that, and then it's like, I didn't need to watch it again, but I really enjoyed watching it again, which says enough, hopefully. You can get us on all the usual channels.
Yes, we're on all podcasting platforms. We're on, you know, Spotify. We're on Acast. We're on.
Where did you find this episode, by the way?
Yeah, wherever. You know.
I mean, they're listening. So.
So yes, you know, tell your friends. You know, thank you for the support as always. If you can give us a share, leave us a review on iTunes. That helps out. And yes, thanks for all the support and comments. Keep them coming in. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. They're our main sort of channels.
We are everywhere.
We're not everywhere, but we try.
No, we have people everywhere. We can be like Spectre. We have people everywhere.
Obviously, it's been a tough year for a lot of people. It's been a weird year. Hopefully, our audio hasn't been too bad. You know, we're just going to keep doing these, unfortunately, I'm afraid. But yes, coming up in the new year.
We'll have some hopefully some live recordings to share with you soon.
Yes. Well, the schedule's always changing, but we've got some exciting stuff potentially in the pipeline. So, yes, I've been George McGee.
I've been Charlie McGee, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
We'll see you, or you can hear us in 2021.
Happy Christmas.
you could be so bold. The Imperial Senate will not sit still for this. When they hear you've attacked a
I know you have been inconvenienced, and I'm prepared to compensate you. Shall we say $1 million American dollars? Very well then, $2 million.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
Anyone who throws roses at my son's feet will answer to me.
Holding her is dangerous. Word of this gets out, it could generate sympathy for the rebellion in the Senate.
You told me my son was here. Where is your daughter? I must speak to her at once.
She'll die before she'll tell you anything.
I know you have been inconvenienced, and I'm prepared to compensate you. Shall we say $1 million American? Aha!
Battle station plans are not aboard this ship.
And?
No transmissions were made.
And?
An escape pod was jettisoned during the fight.
And?
No life forms were aboard.
So that's it. You've grown a mustache. I am more than the exalted ruler of this land and the master of all I survey. I'm also a concerned dad.